So one of the things that's difficult about having faith is, well, you're pressured. You're pressured to believe, but then you don't really know what the heck you're believing in, perhaps. Or if you do, you don't know what it means in your life, you know? Anyway, I'm going to try to be relevant, okay? I'm going to try to talk about two of the readings today and explain how these have to do with actual life. Because most people don't understand what the big deal is about sacrifice. Okay, first of all, let's take a look at what Jesus says in the gospel today. Then Jesus told his disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Great, I'll do it, Jesus, but I don't know what it means. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? That last thing that Jesus says is a little easier to understand because we see people all around us who sell their souls all the time. Okay, so this is actually kind of funny. People are trying to normalize what they now call the sex industry, in other words, prostitution, because there's an explosion of pornography on the internet. And so the people who are into it, even though they're practicing a kind of prostitution, in order to feel better about themselves and to assuage their guilty conscience, they'll talk about how, oh, I'm a worker. This is my industry. This is a free choice that I've made, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Well, I read an article about a woman who complains that in order to really push her sex videos, she's got to have social media here. She's got to have a good website here. She's got to make sure that she's constantly blogging and promoting herself over there. And and it's harder and harder to make money. And all she's doing is working and working and working. She almost said, holy cow, you've got to prostitute yourself in order to be a prostitute. People prostitute themselves in many ways, even if it's not literally in that way. I mean, I'm a workaholic for a variety of very strange psychological reasons, but it would be easy for any of us to say, hey, I want money, I want fame, I want this, I want that. That's what my life is all about. Yeah. Even in Tolkien's story, Leaf by Niggle, there's, I think, a reference to this in the story where you've got a fellow who's a brilliant artist, but he can never complete his work of art because he's constantly being interrupted by stupid little things having to do with his neighbor or his house or patching this or doing this chore or helping his neighbor do that. But all he wants to do is do his artwork. And even though he's clearly made to do it, that's not life. The more we think that we can be saved by a single idea or a single thing we do or by a specific trick or gimmick that we found, the more we put our faith in a man-made idol, which the Book of Wisdom talks about, the more we are gaining the world, perhaps, and losing our soul. The more we are trying to gain our life, but really losing it. We need to be willing to lose our lives for the sake of Jesus. Now, what does that mean? That could even mean what Socrates did 400 years before Christ, where rather than compromise his integrity and his devotion to the truth, he was willing to die instead. Soldiers and police officers and first responders do that all the time. So do parents, in a sense. They see something greater than themselves in their children or in what they're raising their children to be. And they are willing to lay down their lives for the sake of something beyond themselves. People who don't do that become creeps. That's the technical definition. But when we put our faith in something like money or wealth or fame or one specific thing, like I'm going to get Bernie elected, I'm going to get Trump reelected, I'm going to get Mr. O'Brien elected, he'll save us. The more we get like that, the more we forget what life really is. It's not about what we're creating and forcing ourselves to believe in. And in fact, when we look at the Book of Wisdom, I mean, this is a great book. It's a shame that it's been cut from most Protestant Bibles. The foolishness of idolatry. He goes on and on and on and talks about this guy who is simply in his spare time with a piece of trash, a piece of wood that he would have thrown out, carving a little character that looks like an animal or a person. He puts it in a niche, a little niche, a little place on his wall, and he makes sure it's secure because he knows it'll fall. It can't keep itself up. He knows it's dead. And here at the bottom, for health, here, let's do this. When he prays about possessions and his marriage and children, he is not ashamed to address a lifeless thing. For health, he appeals to a thing that is weak. For life, he prays to a thing that is dead. For aid, he entrusts a thing that is utterly inexperienced, unable to help itself. For a prosperous journey, he prays to a thing that cannot take a step. For money-making and work and success with his hands, he asks strength of a thing whose hands have no strength. A thing that doesn't even really have hands. But that's what we do. That's idolatry. That's why the first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me. We don't maybe think, since we're super Catholics, that we go about worshiping Tiamat or that we go about worshiping Maya, the earth goddess, but maybe we are worshiping idols, our ideologies, they might be, or anything that we really think is the salvation of our life. Because ultimately, life is a mixture of things, most of which are beyond our control. And unless we are oriented toward that which is beyond ourselves, in this case, the triune God, unless we are willing to lose our lives for his sake and to take up our cross and follow him, it's going to be foolish. And we will know on some level, we will know at some level that we're not getting there. My wife and I watch American Greed because I love to watch about how people put their faith in frauds and scams. The last one we saw was about a woman who, when the feds were closing in and she knew she was about to be charged with fraud and with stealing money, millions from all these people she was defrauding, what did she do? She turned to hoodoo. It was called hoodoo. Hoodoo, which is really voodoo. And the woman, they interviewed a woman, well, what is hoodoo? Well, it's not voodoo, she said, which means that's exactly what it is. Thou dost protest too much. Anyway, this woman turned to all these bizarre sort of magic rites and rituals and spent a fortune paying people to do them. And she must have known at some level that, you know what? Rather than turning toward some bizarre idolatry to get you out of a fix, how about you simply make money honestly? It'd be better, you know? Anyway, we are unrealistic about these things. And Christ is the wake-up call. Put your faith in life and the source of life. Don't sell your soul to gain the world. That's your most valuable thing. That is you at your deepest level.